A Viking sword is an awesome weapon, and today we're gonna make one from plywood. You've probably guessed it already, because this is another sponsored video for the game Vikings War of Clans. And I actually love these guys, because honestly, they are my biggest sponsor, and without them I would probably no longer be in business. And that is only because you guys helped me in these tough times by downloading the game and playing it, and I don't think that many of you regretted it, because it's really a fun game. As you probably already know, it is a strategy game, a little bit like what we played in the 90s and in the 2000s, but now on the mobile, and I love the graphics. They got amazing graphics. I also love the fact that this is a slow-paced game. You're never in a hurry, and you have complete freedom of choice. So you can build a huge town and build lots of buildings in it and fortify it, or you can be a diplomat. But also what you can do is you can build a huge army and then attack others. That's what I love the most. The game is free to download, and you can get it for iOS and also for Android, of course. And if you download it from my link, which would actually help me a lot, since then my sponsor would know that you guys came from me and probably book another episode. If you do that, then you also get some presents. You get 200 gold coins, and you also get the initial protection shield, as you know, very important for a Viking. And of course you probably have already downloaded the game and played it for a while, like I've done that several times. But in this case it would be great if you could play it for 5 minutes again. And maybe we meet, who knows. Anyway, as always, Vikings came to me with a challenge. And this time the challenge has to do with this great sword. Let me show it to you, put in some other pictures. Because what that is actually an original Viking sword. It's 1100 years old. It was found near Lesja in Uppland in Norway. And actually it was just like sticking out of a rocky patch. And that I understand that is usually covered in ice and snow. The sword is extremely well preserved. As you see, there's a thin layer of rust over it. But I think that within an hour or two you can get this battle ready again. The wooden handle, of course, or maybe it was leather, who knows that? Probably both, is rotten away. But other than that, it's sharp, it's straight, and it's absolutely cool looking. Anyway, the challenge is build that thing in plywood, from a single piece of plywood, so that it's still a serious weapon. So even though it's made from wood, it needs to be able to cut and cause some damage. Well, plywood is one of my favorite materials. Why? Well, basically because, first of all, it's very solid, so it can take a lot of abuse, but also because it's very homogeneous. This means that it doesn't warp, it doesn't bend. The quality is like very much the same throughout the entire length of a long sword, and therefore I think multiplex plywood, it is a special brand of plywood, is ideally suited for this. It also is not so hard to work on it because you have these different layers that help you staying straight. Now we have traced the entire sword to a single piece of 18mm plywood, and it already comes quite clear that this is a very long and very wide sword. It's actually much longer and wider than any other Viking sword that I've seen so far. And now we'll saw it out. Right, now we're holding the raw sword in our hands for the first time, and I can already say it's a sword with a rather long blade and a very short handle. Actually, I think its owner must have had significantly shorter or smaller hands than I have, but then again my fists are like supermarket chickens. But it's not bad. I mean, it's of course obviously all the Viking swords have been one-handers because you were holding the shield with the other hand, remember? Alright, now we have to start shaping the blade, and first we will do the bloodline here. Alright, and this is the finished sword. As you see, the blade is gleaming, as any good sword blade is supposed to. And actually, now that the edges are broken, it feels real comfortable in the hand, because there is an advantage of such a tight handle. Because see, this is really, you know, rock solid in my hand. It won't budge. And also, see, it's still fairly thin. Of course, it's not as thin as the original, which is not even half a centimeter thin. But it probably has the same flexibility. It is super light. It's now 262 grams heavy or light. It actually shed half of its weight due to the shaping. So all the shaping and sharpening and also the groove, the blood groove here, took off so much weight. But so it's super quick. It's really a quick blade. I mean, come on. And also let's check where the point of balance is and compare to the original. Okay. Yeah, that's the point of balance. Let's measure how far that is away from the handle, because we have that value. Okay, so that's 38 centimeters away from it. And the original, let me see, 38.5. Now call that precision. Now the edges are sharp, of course then they're not super sharp, but I think it's a very good compromise between durability and cutting abilities. And for the first time I'm actually holding the ancient sword in my hand, and it feels great. If we compare it to the cold steel Viking sword, it turns out the blade length is almost identical, even though mine is a little longer. The blade width, though, is different, totally different. See, the original Viking sword was a lot wider than this one. And also, see, the handle is real big on this one. Even for my hand, there's a lot of reserve. And I'm not sure if that is really wanted. I mean, I have to say that this handle probably in fighting condition is better. But other than that, there's the same blood groove, right? And the thickness, I mean, this of course is also a fairly thin sword. And of course it's also a lot more heavy. Where's the point of balance on this sword? Here. Let's check. And that's only 31 centimeters. So this one has the balance point much closer to the hand. And that's probably due to the heavier pommel here. I think I hit it pretty good. I think that's about as close to the original sword from Lesia as you can probably be with a plywood sword. Now let's go and test its abilities. It is a long sword. Remember that I made one from European dogwood, and you see it's just about half as long. It's more like a knife compared to this one. And you can already see that this has started to warp a little bit, which is the problem if you use natural wood. If you do it that thin, then obviously at some point it would start to warp, which will never happen with plywood. One of the great advantages of the plywood. Anyway, we'll start the cutting test with the pineapple here. Let's see if it cuts through that. I'll try to do it backhanded like this to see if it works. Okay. A clean kill. Next test candidate is watermelon, of course. Wasn't easy to find this time of the year, but well, I managed. And this time we'll try the diagonal slash, just like Stefan Roth taught me. Wow! Victory! Next test candidate, Ballistic Gelatin. And it's even the new recipe, which is even tougher. Not sure if you can see this. Very, very tough now. Because this is the new Type 3 stuff. Since my ballistic jelly ran out, and actually the mice got to it as well. so I asked them if they would have some more of the stuff, and actually they comped me a whole bag of it. So there's another 25 kilos of pure cutting fun. And I plan to take it to good use, starting with today's cutting test. So it is said that actually with a wooden sword, stabbing is more effective than slashing, because obviously you can only sharpen a wooden edge so much. So it will never be razor sharp. But the tip is quite pointy. So, and also I put the ballistic gel block against my trusted old dirt bag so that it's not flying away immediately. Wow! It worked. Now we will go for the diagonal slash. Wow! Look at that! That's pretty impressive, don't you think? That's a serious wound we got here. Okay, now the real deal. Alright, wow! I guess I know why the Vikings didn't go into battle with a wood sword. Look how clean that cut is. I mean, you can say about the cold steel sword what you want, that it's not authentic and so on, but it is sharp, believe me. Very sharp for a sword. Ridiculously sharp for a sword. I think I mastered the challenge. As you see, it has the exact same measurements, except of course that it's thicker and lighter. But on the other hand, all the other parts, I think I really tried to, you know, focus on the detail so that everything really is like on the original. And you can win this sword. It's quite easy. You just have to download the game and play it until you reach level 5 in the palace. Take a screenshot and then go to my Facebook page, find the right post, and you have to write a comment to that post, because if you don't do it, then I won't find it when I do the raffle. And in 1 week, I will do the raffle, and the winner will get this awesome sword delivered to his door. Thanks to Vikings. But I really love how lightweight it is. I think it makes a great training sword as well. I'm not a really trained swordsman at all. I mean, I have really never gotten any serious education on it. But I can tell this feels great. And I think it looks cool too. And of course, since I'm showing a wooden sword, now a lot of wise butts will come and say, why didn't you fire harden the edge? Because it would be so much harder, blah, blah, blah. Well, I tested that. I even filmed it, and maybe I will upload that episode someday soon, because I first need to edit it. I really tested fire hardening. I used the Wikipedia method, which is different than the method that the scientists employed. And I can tell you it works great on freshly cut twigs. So if you want to make an arrow or a spear from a freshly cut green twig, then fire hardening gets rid of the moisture in it and also significantly hardens it. It really becomes much harder. On dead wood, there's really no positive effect. On plywood, it's actually counterproductive, because if you do this to plywood, which is already like soaked in resin to connect the layers with each other, and also is very dry, it has no positive effects. The effect actually is that the layers start to come apart. So it's actually a bad idea to fire harden a plywood sword. So again, please download the game and play it for 5 minutes, or longer, as long as you want to, in fact, because that really helps my channel a lot. Thanks, guys. So I hope you liked this, because that's it for today. Thanks and bye-bye.